Hello, my name is ayo-deleedwards. Welcome to Becoming You. This podcast was inspired by my one-woman show about overcoming adversity and the journey of becoming who you were always meant to be. I truly believe we're all creative and unique, and I'm passionate about people's stories. On these podcasts, I will be speaking with men and women who have found ways to use their creativity to manage life's ups and downs. Becoming You is about acknowledging all the pain and turning it into purpose and art. As you listen, I hope you are inspired to use your creativity to become you. Hello and welcome to Becoming You. This is episode 4. I just want to say a quick thank you for your support. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing. Now, today's guest is an amazing woman. She's a psychotherapist. She specializes in art therapy. She uses her skills and expertise to unravel the complex issues in life through psychotherapy. Now, I'm really excited about this guest just because I feel like everything that I walked through in bringing becoming to life is what she helps people do for a living. I don't mean to put on a show. I mean to be able to process the things that you've been through so that you can move past them. Her name is Nadine Sylvester. She is such a woman of faith, and you can hear it in the way she speaks and in the care that she has for the clients that she works with. I want to encourage you to be open as you listen, be blessed, but also be moved to action as you listen. Thank you. Enjoy.
This year we kicked off conversations about relationships.
Yeah.
And then you came to speak at that event. Thank you. Because it was such a revelation. And I think it was at that point that I did a bit more digging and found out like exactly what you do. And this is amazing. You're helping transform lives on a daily basis. Did you always know that you wanted to be a psychotherapist?
Actually, no, I didn't. I just sort of, in a sense, sort of fell into it. But what happened, I was working in the corporate environment. Mm-hmm. And then one day I was just looking through the newspaper, and I actually remember it was the Guardian newspaper. And I was looking through it and I came across an article which was offering people to train as a counsellor, but working with children in primary school. Mm-hmm. And so they were going to train you for a year. And then afterwards, you're going to start working and doing some voluntary work with them for a year as well. So I went through the training with them. So I got a day release from my workplace. Mm-hmm. But I made it sort of fit into work as a manager and things like that. It was like a continuous development part of my role and things like that. And then, yes, I trained and I worked in a primary school in a London primary school, which was quite deprived. Mm-hmm. And I really enjoyed it. It just opened my eyes to, I knew there was children was going through difficult situation within their family, difficult situations at school, and it had an impact on them at school and how they related to one another and their friendship groups and things like that. Mm. And I started to work with them, and I had a brilliant supervisor, and she who approached me and she said, Nadine, I think you really should train and become a psychotherapist, not just stay as a voluntary, but really go and train as it. And she gave me 2 options, 2 really, really good universities. And she said to me, the one that she wanted to get into, she didn't get in, she went to another one. And I went to my interview and I got into the institute that she wanted to get in, and she just was so over the moon for me. And really, it was just from then, working with children, that the passion actually grew to come into that field as a psychotherapist.
Ooh, amazing.
Yeah. But the training itself was 4 years. It's difficult because to train as a psychotherapist, what I noticed is when I first started to training, it was myself and 2 other Black women who was training.
Yeah.
And so when you start training as a psychotherapist, the course itself is really quite expensive. And also you tend to predominantly, and it is recognized that it is white middle class, predominantly women, but there's lots of men trained as psychotherapists. And to go down that route was really difficult because you came across a lot of racism. You came across where you had to start thinking about yourself more deeply, and part of thinking of myself more deeply, you also had to go into therapy because you couldn't do this work without actually start working on yourself.
Wow.
So I spent 4 years in therapy for myself.
Gosh.
And also while I was doing this training, I then became the only, because the other 2 dropped out for whatever reason as well, and part of it was financial.
Okay.
But I was still working while I was still studying. I was still working, so I thank God that I was able to pay my fees and still work. And there was even times that I wondered about, because some of the theories that we were learning, some of the principles we were learning was very much eye-opener. It was like in the world, and I was thinking, oh my gosh, is this really what God wants for me? And sometimes I was missing church because it was on a some of the training was on a Sunday. I said, Lord, is this really for me? I'm here, but are you with me? You know, is this part of my journey that you want me to do? And it was like I heard a voice, and I know it was the Lord saying, this is what I have for you. And it just sort of solidified everything in that, yes, I may be training on a Sunday, but actually I'm still doing it unto the Lord because he's part of me. One amazing thing that happened on one Sunday, we had to do a presentation. And the presentation that I did was a dance. And I can't remember exactly what the music was, but it was a gospel music. And I got somebody to do some choreograph with me. She was part of a church that I belonged to previously. So we did that, and I presented that. And people came back to me. Yes, I passed it, that assessment, passed it. People came back to me after I did it and said, actually, Nadine, I came in this morning and I had this stomach ache. And as you danced, my stomach ache just went.
Wow.
Someone else came and said, Nadine, I had a headache. When you dance, it was like, oh my gosh, my headache is going.
Wow.
So I knew God was in it. So much in it. And it just really just thought, yeah, I'm on the right path. I'm not doing it because I think maybe it was the right move or whatever. Yeah. So, yeah.
Awesome. Wow. So I guess, like, in your job, you have to be quite creative. How have you developed that, or how do you get the ideas to help people? Because I know you have the standard training that you've had, but sometimes you may have someone who comes into your office and you have to find a different way in. How do you use your creativity, or what kind of sparks, you know, things for you to do for your client, to help your clients?
Yeah. So part of the training that I did was working with the arts. So it's using the creativity in that way of using paints, using poetry, using using the metaphor, people coming up with metaphor for different things that they're going through. So I trained in being able to use that, because sometimes someone may not have words to the feelings that they're expressing. So when we use the arts, it's, say, for example, like using some paint, they can actually draw out what it is that they're going through, and using that to express what is going on for them. So it's not my interpretation of what it is, it's their interpretation. So sometimes when somebody comes in and it's the experience that they've gone through is so painful, they can't give words to it because they've never given words to it. They've gone through it without actually saying to anyone, this is my experience that I've gone through. So the art then helps them to give it a voice.
Right.
Rather than them voicing it in that sort of sense of a way. So when somebody's come through, and the part of using that creativity is using either their body, because they hold their experience or their pain within their body, because the body holds on to that trauma that that somebody probably has gone through. So using the body, because sometimes it could be they said, I've always had this stomach ache, or I've always had something or the other. So it's using that to give it voice and to give it, to let it come through. So for example, sometimes we hold things in the unconscious. We've gone through it and we hold it because it protects us. But when you start bringing it to the conscious and bringing it to the foreground, then you work with what comes through. So in the sense of the creativity is working through what somebody is bringing through and using whatever tools in the sense of my bag to bring forth. And also the sense of, Lord, just help me at this point. And the Holy Spirit has not let me down at all.
Awesome.
In bringing things forward as well.
Wow. Like, you're literally changing lives. When I started writing the show, every time I wrote in my journal, there was a theme. And when I decided to put the show on, I looked through my journal, and it was kind of the threads of everything that I'd been writing, sharing in song. And at that point, I felt like I was exposing myself. Because, like you say, some of the things that I had been through, I hadn't given a voice to it. I didn't know what it was. I didn't think anything of it because, when you get to a certain age, everyone's like, just get on, you need to move on with your life. You need to get on with it. And that language, I didn't even know why it used to irritate me, but I can't get on with it because I'm blocked. I can't.
Yes.
It feels like I can't move forward because there's something there and I don't know what the thing is.
Yeah.
I found that writing was really therapeutic. But I didn't, and I think I'm sharing this because as people listen, don't put a label on yourself of what you are, because I kept saying I'm not a writer. But in actual fact, I don't know all of what I am because it's still unfolding. I have ideas and I have aspirations of things that I want to do, but in terms of like the blueprint of my life is in God's hand and it's unfolding. And so, the therapy of even holding a pen, because I tried to type. I would wake up in the morning, I'd be like, oh yeah, so I need to write this part of the story now, like flesh it out. So I'd get my computer out and then I'd go to type and then everything would be dry. And then I'll pick up my pen and paper and write one word. And it's like the floodgates would open and I would just, write. And I got to a point also where I wasn't trying to write the story. I was just trying to just get stuff out. I was told to just purge and just wake up in the morning and just write, like fill as many pages as you want, and then you can put words, or you can not, or you could just do dots, so you can.
Yes.
And it was so therapeutic that I felt like I had been given a gift by the end of that process. That, oh my goodness. And then it led us, like my husband and I, because he was in the rehearsal room as well. And after every rehearsal day, he'd be like, "Are you okay?" Yeah, having him in the rehearsal room was really interesting, because it sparked off conversations that we hadn't necessarily spoken about.
Yeah, I could really understand what you're saying, because part of therapy is writing. So sometimes it's writing your journal, because when people start therapy, or when I started therapy, is writing the words down, and it's processing what has come up and what is there to be explored. And also it's the same thing with using arts, because it isn't about drawing the perfect picture. It's even the dot of a paint just dropping on the paper and spreading, or the just making a mark. It doesn't have to be, it doesn't represent nothing at the time, but when you start looking at it, more comes out from it than what was actually written, put down first on the piece of paper. And it's then exploring it, and it's then deciding, oh my gosh, there's much more in me than what I really believed about what I was holding on to.
Yes.
It's so amazing. The brain is God is so amazing. And he made the brain, he developed the brain to be amazing. But we don't use that part of the brain, that creativity part of the brain, to really work. Or what maybe we were told, that you're not good enough to draw, you're not good enough at English, you're not good enough. So we actually then believe it. Our belief system then starts to believe it, and we then don't use it because we believe that we weren't good enough.
Wow. Yeah. And I guess there's a standard as well that we have seen, that we think that if it doesn't look like this, then it can't measure up. But it's not about any of those things. It's purely an expressive gift.
Yeah. Very true. It really is very true. And it's about us using it and tapping into that creativity, because we've all got it.
Yeah. Finish your thought.
I never believe I had any creativity in the field of art or anything, but actually using the art and knowing how, when I was in therapy, how it really was beneficial for me in opening up and actually expressing myself and saying things about my past experience, in particular talking to my husband about it. But it's because I was able to express it in the art form first, and then I gave it words, and then I was able to talk about it.
Wow. It's like that access door.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. But it's a shame, because we live in a society that, you know, what art is an expensive, it's an expensive commodity that only a few have access to. And it's like we have to really, in our communities, learn to teach ourselves how to just express. Like, it doesn't cost a lot to buy colouring pens and a book, and it's not a waste of time. It's actually time that's going to be beneficial for your mind, your body, and your spirit to just kind of express, and to let kids play and make mess, and you know, those things that are free and so needed. But as you were talking before, I was going to ask you that in our community, we don't value therapy.
You're opening up a big a big conversation here.
I mean, we might have to have you back on again. Because the reason why I say it is because when I did the play, the amount of people that said, that's my story, that's me, that happened to me, like there were so many. And when I said, have you considered going for therapy? Oh, no, I don't need that. It's like, you work in this environment and you have a business of helping people. And even in this time of everyone is kind of at home at the moment.
Yeah.
And we're having to deal with ourselves.
Mm-hmm. And deal with relationships. Yeah. Yeah.
In our community, it's not something that we value, or maybe we're afraid of it. I don't know what it is.
I think that it goes back to the sense of people, when people are growing up or within the Black community. It's, I would say, Black and Asian community, is you don't talk your business outside. You don't nobody needs to know what's going on within our house, or if you have a problem, you go to maybe grandma or an aunt or someone like that. You don't go to a stranger to actually talk about what's going on in your business, and you keep it inside. So because of the sense of everything needs to stay inside, you hold that trauma, you hold those things, because in your mind, I can't tell anyone. Because also the sense of, but it's a secret. And maybe that trauma has come from somebody also who said, this is a secret, you don't tell anyone. So you hold it. So in the Black community, when, eventually you go and you start to speak to someone, is, can I trust this person to hold my secret? Can I dare say this thing, because it may bring shame on me, it may bring shame on my family, and suppose they then know that I'm talking about them. What next? What can happen? So in the Black community and the Asians as well, it holds a lot. And so that sense of, actually, do I go and talk my business with someone? But in particular, do I go and talk my business with another Black person sitting in front of me? Are they going to judge me? Are they going to think, are they going to judge me? Are they going to judge my parents? They're going to judge my aunt, my sister, my whole community. Is that judgment there? And the judgment and the shame, then you don't go forward. You don't go forth. And sometimes, because I worked within the NHS in the mental health, and I worked with, part of my training, I worked with, I did a group therapy with Black men coming out from secure units.
Okay.
And I used the arts with them, and the expression and the things that came up from what they're talking about was a lot of shame. And how they never actually gave voice to any of it or talked about anything. So they internalized a lot of things that they were going through as well. But the art gave them the creativity, gave them voice to be able to talk about it, and talk about the shame, and talk about the judgment that I may have on them, or they may have on themselves.
Gosh. Wow. Oh, it's a lot.
I told you it's a lot.
It's a lot. Because, it's weird, because I think there's a lot of work that we have to do on ourselves as individuals.
Yeah.
Anyway, and it's good practice to like offload things that happen, to talk about it, to share the burden, so to speak. But I think you're right, not having somebody to trust to tell, because sometimes you hear stories that, oh, I told you my secret and then you told the world, or
yes,
and
absolutely.
Once you've done it once and you've been bitten, you're not gonna,
Nope.
you're just gonna, I'll just keep it to myself, I'll take it to my grave.
Yep.
I'm not gonna tell anybody. Yep. But it hurts when we don't share. Yes. But the thing is, sharing it is one aspect, but there's also being able to, because I even know some people who say, I don't keep a diary because if I was to ever lose that diary or someone was to find it, it would be disastrous. And so, things are being kept inside, and it's a lot.
If we think about it, it eats away, because it's something that you are holding on to, and yes, you've buried it, but something could have triggered it again, and it's that, oh my gosh, is that bending over, when somebody bends over because it's so painful, and sometimes you stay there because it's just too much to bear. And we know that God can release us, but actually as well, it's trusting someone that to help you to release that. Because He's made us as human connection for a reason.
Yeah, we definitely have to connect with one another. And I think that's what's really difficult at this time because of this coronavirus and everyone being on lockdown. We are going to have to deal with ourselves. You can't escape to work. You can't escape. Oh, I'm going out to a club. I'm going for a meal. You're going to have to deal with yourselves and with the people that you live with or don't live with.
Yeah.
That connection's going to have to be made. It's an interesting time because, the lockdown is one thing and mental health is another thing.
Absolutely.
It's like, how are we dealing with ourselves, and do we even know how to process, the stuff that is happening now, not to talk of what's happened before. And you're right, there are going to be so many triggers at this point, because sometimes people are escaping the home when they leave every day. There's a routine. Some people have been getting on the same train for the past 10 years.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, it's like, not going anywhere.
Yeah.
That's going to do something.
It definitely will do something. That's why the sense of, even if they have to just be in the house, in the room or some part of the room on their own, is maybe writing something down. And if they don't trust that somebody else is going to read it, but it actually is the sense of they've written it down, maybe then they could go and burn it or shred it or whatever. But also the sense of also making an image or using the creativity in whatever comes out, because nobody else is going to they may try and interpret it, but they will never get that right interpretation, because they're not the one who put the information on that drawing or that image on the paper as well. So that's another way that people probably can start releasing things, is doing the writing, is doing the journaling. And then, afterwards, at some stage, shredding, burning, whatever. Nobody in that sense need to know, because you're starting to deal with some of those things that you've hidden for many years.
Yeah. I mean, it is a huge topic, isn't it? It's kind of... It's a big one.
It is.
If someone calls you, how do people get in touch with you? Do they phone you? I know you do have a website, but when someone gets in touch and says that they want to book an appointment, what is the first thing that they do?
So they could send me an email. I respond to email within most likely within 2 days.
Okay.
Or they could actually phone me, and then we could arrange to have a brief conversation. So that just give me an outline of where they want to go, and then I'll tell them a little bit about me. Right. But it's when we have the initial session that we can then talk about what it is that they want to talk about, and what it is that where they want to go, or the costing as well. So yes, the costing also is a big issue, because sometimes people thinking, oh my gosh, I'm spending so much money. Do I really need that therapy and things like that? But there is within therapy, there is always a negotiation can have at a reasonable negotiation. So yes, through email and through telephone at the moment, you can contact me. Yeah, people can contact me. Yeah.
And if somebody was to contact you, what is the process that you go through? Do they have a consultation, like a face-to-face or telephone consultation? And then,
at the moment, because of
the lockdown.
It is I do online, so I could have an online session. But previously it would have been face-to-face. So I'm in North London, which is Turnpike Lane, also in Balham, and I'm also in London Bridge. So those are sort of the three places that I see face-to-face when we're not in lockdown. But otherwise, everything is done through online. So it's Zoom, FaceTime, and Skype as well. So yeah, people can contact me that way, and we can have an initial consultation as well. But at the moment, I'm carrying out the majority, nearly all of my sessions at the moment, online. So because of the sense of that continuous, rather than just leaving it, because also this brings up a lot of things around relationships, brings up a lot of things around themselves and how they actually function, and being at home with themselves. And the sense of that loneliness. Where is this loneliness? What do we do when we're lonely? What does that mean for us? And is this the first time I've been in this situation? And how do I be mentally well to continue in this loneliness in this period of time as well?
Wow. So is there any case that you've had that you've said, no, I can't do that, or I won't do that?
It's a difficult one. Yes, if it's more where I think, and we've discussed it, say from the initial session, we've discussed it, and maybe if it's a sense of they need to have an assessment by a psychiatrist regarding their mental well-being, and to have that full, maybe it's probably better to go through to see their GP, to go through the NHS. Then I don't do that. But also I do assessment where if it is that's what they need to do, and while they're waiting maybe for a NHS psychotherapist, I will continue to see them until their time has, they need to do it, and probably also because it could be financial implication for them as well. So those, but on the whole, I haven't really turned anybody away for any reason. So I work with adolescents, male and female as well. Yeah.
Awesome. Whew.
Yes.
Thank you.
Oh no, thank you. It's been my pleasure. I've never sort of thought I will talk about these things in that way, because usually I'm the one on the other side who's really listening and really paying attention to that client, and really hearing beyond what they're saying,
Yeah.
but listening, really attentively listening. So I don't really give a lot of my voice.
Oh, I see.
And so for me now to give my voice is like, oh my God, have I really said all of these things?
You have. It's amazing.
So yeah. So
no, thank you for the work you do. It's needed. It's because like I remember reading on your website and I just thought, wow, you are actually setting people free, and you are helping lives, and it's important. And it's funny because in times like these you get to, but well-being is not something that is like, I don't think we understand the importance of taking care of the mind. And also the stuff that I talk about in the play happened over a span of 20 years. So it's that thing that we do carry so much of our past with us, and we don't offload. We don't have a season of purging. I think that's where it is. It's not something that we're taught, where we say, oh, I'm going to look at 1985 and I'm going to go like and work on that.
The young people, I have found that they are so open to start to discuss things that has gone on for them, and they then take it further on and think about it so much more, because I suppose their life story isn't as long as somebody who's an adult. So they're able to then bring it forth. And the beauty of seeing them develop and using, to me, it's when the young people use the arts, they really use the creativity and then make it work for them. Yeah.
So final thought, if you were to encourage somebody to delve into their creative gifting, kind of encourage them to get on with it.
I think it's really quite simple. It's just doing it. It's really just doing it. Putting the pen to paper. Really just putting the pen to paper. And as you say, even if it's just to put a dot, even if it's just to say blah, even if it's just to make a mark with a pen, with a crayon or paint or whatever it is, but it's to start and not let the fear hold you back, because it will come in your mind, well, why are you doing that? Because that looks stupid. Why are you going to make up? And it plays and it plays, and then you're going to step back and think, nah, I'm not going to do it. But actually, even if those doubts come into your mind, actually, I'm going to do it because I know the beauty of the creative and where it's going to lead me to. And if it leads you into therapy, fair enough. If it leads you to speak to someone that you trust and you really know how to, and you trust them, that's a step forward as well.
Amen. Wow. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for your wisdom. Wow.
Thank you for listening to Becoming You. To stay connected, follow me on Instagram or Facebook. Remember, being you is your best asset.